Verbolten at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg is a Zierer family coaster. This coaster does so many different things. It has theming, indoor and outdoor segments, 2 launches, and some surprises I'll touch on later, but not before giving spoiler warnings. Verbolten replaced the beloved Big Bad Wolf, and it is now the park's premier family coaster. But was it worth the price? Verbolten reportedly cost a whopping $54 million. Yes, $54 million. So in this video, I will be reviewing Verbolten. The story begins with Big Bad Wolf, the park's aero-suspended coaster that opened in 1984. This was considered by many to be the best suspended coaster in the United States for the setting and wild swinging, particularly on the famous Rhine River drop. However, the coaster reached the end of its service life at the end of the 2009 season, necessitating its removal. Busch Gardens knew they needed a replacement family coaster to compensate for the loss of Big Bad Wolf, and enthusiasts expected Busch Gardens to go big. But not exactly $54 million big. While this figure has never been confirmed by the park, many have cited that Verbolten cost $54 million, which would be the most expensive addition in Busch Gardens' history. This is a total figure including the coaster itself, plus the theming, show building, and terraforming. It is unclear if this also includes the renovation to the entire Oktoberfest area, but regardless, Busch Gardens spent a pretty penny on this ride. While Verbolten is among the park's most popular attractions, it's debatable if Busch Gardens got the return on investment that they expected. Verbolten opened in 2012, 3 years after the closure of Big Bad Wolf. The park's attendance increased from 2011 to 2012 by 4%, including the Themed Amusement Association's annual attendance report. But the overall attendance from 2009, Big Bad Wolf's final year, to Verbolten's opening year in 2012 decreased by 1.5%. Verbolten often has the longest line of any coaster at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. I usually visit on summer weekdays or early in the season on weekends, and Verbolten is usually a half-hour wait unless you head first thing in the morning. I suspect the wait time could reach an hour on summer weekends or Howl-O-Scream weekends when the park is at its busiest. Fortunately, Verbolten's queue is well themed. It reused the old queue line and station of Big Bad Wolf, but it received a complete facelift. It begins with an impressive entrance plaza that continues the colorful and happy vibe of the overall Oktoberfest area. The ride is themed to a motor tour agency, so the queue line starts with thematic advertisements and ticket booths. Eventually, you reach a mysterious room with some radios and overgrown plants. You then reach the station, which is adorned with more German theming. The quality of the theming in the queue line and station are on par with that of a Disney ride, and that theming extends to the trains. Verbolten has 5 trains, each themed to sports cars, and they look fantastic. I also really love the restraints. The lap bars feel a bit heavy, but they're quite roomy and have some give to them. One thing to note is that the lap bars have a metal guard to prevent riders from kicking their legs forwards. These metal guards should not be near the legs of riders like the traditional shin guards, so I don't mind them one bit. One thing that surprised me about Verbolten is the height restriction. It's 48 inches, which is higher than the predecessor's 42-inch mark. While it is higher than most family coasters, I can sort of understand why because of the unique and unexpectedly intense parts of Verbolten. Verbolten is a dual load platform, so I recommend scouting which end has a shorter wait. I prefer the back row in Verbolten, both for the forces, and I actually think the view in the indoor section is a bit better towards the back. Once dispatched, you are warned to beware of the Black Forest. You slowly roll towards the ride's show building, and suddenly you hit the ride's first LSM launch. And this is a deceptively powerful launch. The overall stats do not look that impressive. It accelerates riders to 45 miles per hour, or 72 kilometers per hour, in 2.3 seconds. But you need to keep in mind that this launch is inclined, so it has more power to it because you have to overcome gravity. It always pins me back in my seat. This launch blasts you into the ride's show building. If you want to avoid the spoilers of what happens inside the show building, please skip ahead to the time shown on your screen. The end of the launch is paired with some multicolored blacklit effects, and a white flash signifying that your vehicle has been struck by lightning. As you crest the end of the launch track, you get some decent floater airtime, and this airtime is more sustained in the back as you drop back down to the ground. You then speed around a forceful low turn, seeing some more of the backlit effects. To be honest, these visuals don't really add much to the ride. You pass by them so quickly, and they're fairly indistinguishable. But that's okay because the indoor part is in almost total darkness, which heightens the overall thrill. After this low turn, you traverse one of the most underrated helixes in the world. Without fail, Verbolten's helix always causes me to start graying out. It's similar to the one on Backlot's Stunt Coaster. Neither seem like they should be as intense as they are, but they sustain the positive G's for a rather long time. You then come to a near stop on the mid-course brake run, and suddenly dip back down to the ground, getting a faint pop of air in the back row. This is followed by another forceful low turn, and then you rise up into another mid-course. Or so you think. As you continue to pull forwards, you get one of three possible show scenes. One themed to a forest spirit, one themed to a lightning storm, and one themed to a big bad wolf. The later is a clear nod to the ride that came before it. The visuals are relatively minimalistic, especially up front because it seems like you travel past the effects before they trigger. But I love the ominous audio that really builds the suspense. Then all of a sudden, Verbolten surprises riders with a drop track. Now, a lot of enthusiasts knew of its existence before the ride opened, and the park did include testing videos on their website showing the drop track, so it wasn't exactly a secret. The element is most effective though if you don't know it's coming. But you still don't know the exact moment you'll drop, and this drop does offer a brief stomach dropping sensation with a quick pop of airtime. I love all drop tracks, and the one Verbolten is no different. You then dip down a small drop, emerge into the daylight, and hit the ride's second launch. In general, I prefer the back row in Verbolten, but you do need to be very careful at this point. Because the second launch seems to start before the back of the train has cleared the prior dip, your head can really get thrown backwards if you're not expecting that launch. So keep your head back as you're exiting the show building if you want to avoid this jolt. The second launch is flat, so it's not quite as powerful as the first one, but it still has some good zip to it. You then navigate an uphill S-bend that doesn't really add anything to the ride, and then you enter a bridge. Here you are slowed down to a crawl. If you look down, you'll notice that you're staring at the Rhine River, just like you used to on the Big Bad Wolf. I understand why the slowdown occurs, but the thrill seeker in me really wishes you flew over the 88-foot or 27-meter tall hill. I'd love to know how much airtime you'd get under those conditions. Verbolten is the spiritual successor to Big Bad Wolf by following the former second half, literally to a T. Verbolten not only has a similar drop over the Rhine River, but it actually reuses its predecessor's footers for the entire second half. Not many coasters can say that. The Rhine River drop was scarier on the Big Bad Wolf, since the suspended trains made it feel like they'd snap off the track on the subsequent turn. However, the drop is more forceful in Verbolten. Even with the slowdown on the bridge, the back row gets nice sustained floater airtime the whole way down. That is followed by a decently forceful turn over the water, but the subsequent turn is even more intense. It is extremely tight and pulls some serious G's. You then coast over a speed hill, getting a faint bit of float in the back row, and then you turn into the brake run, ending the 2,835 foot or 864 meter long ride. Before going into my final score, I want to talk about the coaster's pacing and smoothness. In terms of pacing, Verbolten is just okay. This ride has 4 different bursts where it's fast, but they're all short-lived and broken up by mid-course brake runs that slow the train down to a crawl in between. I think the slowdowns would be more effective if the thematic elements during the ride were stronger, as there's only one slowdown that I really think adds to the overall ride. For the most part, Verbolten is a smooth coaster. The biggest issue is the abrupt jolt you get in the back car on the second launch, but you also have some rattling, particularly in the second half on the uphill segments. The rattle isn't enough to ruin the ride for me, nor does it hamper my ability to reride it, but it's definitely noticeable, particularly in the aforementioned high G-force turn at the end of the ride. Just keep that in mind if you are sensitive to a rattle. So what would I rate Verbolten? I would give this coaster a 7.5 out of 10. Verbolten has some very good elements. Both launches are quite punchy, and the coaster has some decent airtime in the back row as well. Plus, I love some of the surprise elements in the indoor section. They're my favorite parts in the ride. I do wish the ride's pacing was a little stronger though, and I wish the ride's excellent theming from the queue line was carried over into the ride itself, but this is still a good family coaster. I do prefer this over Big Bad Wolf by a very slim margin, and I cannot deny that this is a more technologically impressive ride. I think Verbolten is a worthy successor to the Big Bad Wolf. While it may not have been worth the ride's exorbitant price tag, Verbolten is a real crowd pleaser. So those are my thoughts on Verbolten, the Zierer family coaster at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Have you ridden Verbolten? What are your thoughts on this coaster? I'd especially love to hear if you prefer Verbolten or Big Bad Wolf. If you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.